Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to welcome you all to the first quarter of the financial year 2021 earnings conference call. For the ones who are participating for the first time, let me give a brief background about the company. Kiri Industries Limited is one of the largest manufacturers and exporters of diversified range of dyes intermediates, and related chemicals, which include reactive dyes, dispersed dyes, intermediates which are based on aniline and naphthalene, as well as other relevant intermediates. The company has sizable manufacturing facilities of dyes intermediates, dyes and basic chemicals at Padra, Vadodara. Majority of its production facilities are located at Vadodara. And company has strengthened its competitive edge by having fully vertically integrated facilities in India. Kiri had formed a joint venture with Longshan of China, and that is Longshan Kiri, which is manufacturing of dyes facility located at Vadodara. And the financials are part of consolidated results of the company. Let me now brief you through the financial highlights of the quarter. As you know, company has faced lockdown between March and April. These 2 months were end of March till April and part of May also, after which the plants were allowed to partially operate. Initially during May 2020, the company was allowed to fulfill its only export obligations and commitments by operating dyes facility. And then June, the company was allowed to operate all its plants with a normalized operations. So almost you can say practically 60 days of this quarter was under lockdown. For the quarterly performance of the company on standalone basis, operational income for the quarter was 69 crore, which is declined by 75%. Operational expenses reduced to about 63%. Export sales reduced by about 75%, impacting the revenues from dyes, which are generally exported outside India. Comparative gross margins have reduced by 4.2% on year-on-year basis and 9.2% on quarter-on-quarter basis. EBITDA loss was reported at around 21 crore. Net loss after tax reported was 31 crore. The average sales realization for dyes intermediates reduced during first quarter 2021 as compared to the last quarter 2020, impacting the revenues of dyes intermediates. Certain types of basic chemicals achieved little better price realization, increasing revenues of basic chemicals during the quarter. Post unlocking, initially the sales for high-end quality products with good margins also reduced, and hence the margins attained were lower because of the product mix change, which attracted lower margin in the quarter as an overall margin. During quarter 1 2021, EBITDA turned into negative zone, primarily because the company did not cut down salaries and wages, as the company took a conscious decision of taking care of all its employees including blue-collar workers and all other employees. Further, the legal and professional fees, which are mainly related to Singapore court case, increased by about 53% in this quarter 2021 compared to the earlier quarter, because the trial was ongoing throughout the period in the months of the quarter. So that was the biggest expense which impacted a bit of the company. The financial cost reduced by 22% as compared to corresponding quarter of previous year, mainly because financial charges did not incur due to lack of business in shutdown. Working capital cycle elongated because of lockdown. The amount of receivables, payables and inventory remained almost same as compared to previous quarter. The receivables are slow, especially for export sales. However, we expect the same to be streamlined in the coming 2 or 3 quarters. Since the operational expenses include legal expenses towards continuing litigation in matter of the Star case at Singapore International Commercial Court as well as Singapore Supreme Court, the cost of litigation in Singapore is fairly high. It has substantially impacted the bottom line of the company in this quarter. Now I will take you to the quarterly performance of the company on consolidated basis. The operational income for for the quarter was around 109 crore, which decreased by 70%. ABETA reported a loss of 5 crore and net loss after tax 21 crore. On a consolidated basis, the revenue dropped by 70%. Operational expenses dropped by around 63% year-on-year basis. On the consolidated basis, the revenue dropped by 70% again and expenses dropped by 63%. The share of profit of associate companies, which basically Dystar earned for 37.57% of Kiri shares, it accounted 37.14 crore of loss, which was 26.86 crores profit in the corresponding quarter on previous year. It is important to highlight that Dystar had earned profits during quarter 1 2020 if disputed items of exceptional write-down, exceptional provisioning of expenses and claim during management and administrative fees, guarantee fees, etc. Are adjusted. So once all these disputed items are adjusted, then Dystar would be in the profitable territory. During the last 5 years, Kiri has been in disagreement and in dispute with several substantial amount of exceptional items, write-downs, provisioning expenses, which include the items which I just mentioned, and details of such disputed items are not currently available for the first quarter 2021. Lastly, with regard to update on the Kiri suit in Dystar, court proceedings for the valuation pertaining to the final phase of the trial got completed. The trial and hearings were officially over by April 6th. Then the closing took place and closing submissions took place in the month of May and June. On June 30th and July 1st, on these 2 days, oral closing and closing arguments also got completed. And as on July 1st, the judgment was reserved by the court. The court can give judgment at any time. We are waiting for the judgment to come. And as soon as the judgment becomes in SICC, it would be disclosed right away. So right now it's a waiting period, it's a waiting time to obtain judgment from Singapore court. That's all for quarter 1 2021, and floor is now open for your questions. I'll be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press 7, 1 and star on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to withdraw yourself from the question queue, you may press 7, 0 and star. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. First question comes from the line of Pranjal Kothari from No Ball Money Advisors. Line is unmuted.
Yeah. Hi, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Good afternoon, sir. So my question basically was more regarding the certainty of payment from the Longshan Group. I mean, is the balance sheet strong enough to pay us? And any time limit for receiving the money from Longshan Group after the date of announcement of the verdict?
Okay, so your first question was regarding ability of Longshan to pay.
Yes.
Looking at the financials of Longshan, and which is a listed company, you can also have a look at them. And
yeah.
having market cap of more than $6 billion, I believe close to $7 billion, having strong cash reserve and retained earnings, Longshan has definitely financial ability to pay, which has been proven beyond any doubt. So Longshan is capable to pay Kiri and honor court order, which we strongly believe. Number one.
Okay.
Now your second question was related to how much time they would be getting to pay. So it depends basically on the court. So whatever time court prescribed in the order, that is the time within which they will have to pay. Okay. And the third point which you tried to touch upon was a certainty of the payment, right? Even within the time frame, what if they don't pay?
Yeah.
So as soon as the order comes out, the clock starts for them to pay us from that date. Even though they go to appeal, doesn't mean that they can live away with their obligation to pay KIRI. So their obligation to execute buyout would continue to be enforced. And if they do not pay, they would face consequences of the contempt of court. And it is Singapore court then which will decide what further actions are to be taken in the event of contempt of court or in the event of not paying to KIRI.
Okay. But the period of payment will get decided, in how much time they're supposed to pay will be decided by the court itself in its order.
Yes, that would be part of court order as one of the terms of the payment.
Okay, sir. That answers my question. Thank you so much. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question comes from the line of Saurabh Soni from Retail Investors. Line is unmuted.
Yeah, hello, sir. Sir, I have two questions. One is any tentative deadline the court is given that by when beyond when the judgment will not be announced? That is a question number one. Yeah.
There is not a specific deadline or any specific time that the Singapore International Court or Supreme Court provides. Based on the practical experience and the time frame during which usually SICC and Supreme Court gives their judgment, and based on our prior experience also, it takes around 2 to 3 months time. Even in our prior judgments, it has taken that much of a time. But there is no definitive date. Any date we can get a message from the court to collect the judgment, and it is up to the judges when to give. So we have to be ready and just waiting for a call. Especially our counsels would get a call from the court and they will go to collect the judgment. But there is no specific deadline or timeline or any specific time frame given by the court.
Okay. And another question is, sir, this quarter is badly hit because of the COVID. So,
yes.
Are we expecting is there a pipeline of order was already there and we could not able to execute due to this coronavirus? And will the lost revenue which is there in this quarter will be proportionately increased in the rest of the quarter rest of the coming quarters? Will that be the situation, or that gone quarter lost revenue is lost?
Let me start with the pending orders the order book which you referred to in your first question, right? And the order book was almost cancelled because the moment pandemic started and the uncertainties in the market in terms of requirements, in terms of prices, because everything was going down, almost entire industry's order book and our order book was all cancelled at that time. And this was a period around March, April and part of May. So whatever we started dispatching, it is mainly coming from June month, and the revenue which you see in the books is also coming from the month of June. And month of June to do 60 crore only in 1 month was not so bad, to be honest with you. Which we were happy about, but these are all new orders. These are all new demands which are coming from various countries and also domestically. For the current quarter, your second question, for the quarter which is going on right now and the next quarter, we expect that recovery would come. How fast that recovery comes would depend on how fast the demand and how fast the lockdowns in other countries are opening up actually. So we are now seeing month-on-month improvements, and we expect that in the current quarter and next quarter we should have a quite decent recovery. Now, to go back to the normalized operation, which means that the operations which we used to have pre-lockdown with a revenue of close to 270 to 300 crore a quarter, to come back to that kind of revenue, based on current forecasts, we don't foresee it to happen by December end. In case if it happens, we can only expect and be hopeful optimistically to happen in the last quarter of this financial year. And we don't foresee it to come before December as a normalized quarter pre-lockdown or normalized business pre-lockdown that we had. So that is optimistically maybe beginning of 2021, or if not, we will have and wait till next financial year when we have absolute normalized demand and absolute normalized operations in terms of the performance.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Once again, participants, if you wish to ask a question, please press 7-1 and then star on your telephone keypad. We have a question from the line of Rajesh Jain. He's an individual investor. Line is unmuted.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for taking my question. My question relates to the quantum of the valuation that we expect from Dystar case, because I believe it's based on July 2018 financials, but we must have worked out some range as to what will be the expectation in terms of the resolution, in terms of the quantum of money that we can expect. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the question, Rajesh. With regards to July 3rd, 2018, which is the valuation date, and in no uncertainty, the court has already given the view that whatever post-July 2018 events would not affect the valuation of Kiri, and whatever is the valuation as on that date would be the valuation that Kiri is to receive. So, just for your information, that Longshan also tried to apply and to influence court and try to request court to consider COVID-19 pandemic related valuation update, which means that they wanted to basically reduce valuation in today's time, but court dismissed their application and court denied clearly not to consider pandemic or any other events after July 3rd, 2018 to influence Kiri's valuation. That is very important decision by the court. So as on July 2018, whatever is the number, that is the number Kiri is to receive. Now, a specific number which you refer to or a range which you refer to, as the matter is still sub judice and the court is in the process of deciding the number, it would be speculative for me to indicate any number to you. But if you look at till July 3rd, 2018, even in 2018, which was the year, full financial year, Dystar made post-exceptional items and disputed items close to more than $140 million profit after tax. Before that, since 2014, it has made every year almost more than $100 million profit after tax. So, $100 million profit after tax is the established track record and the number which Dystar has already proven till the valuation date. And not only that, all the other IPs and 1,700 patents and world's largest network. So those are the soft assets and those are the soft business features that Dystar has. So if you have any MNC with such a profitability, and if you look at their public domain valuations as on July 2018, you would be able to come up with a fairly decent number if you ask honestly, and you are more expert in valuation than us to figure out what value that company can expect, and we have full faith in the court of Singapore that whatever number they decide, it would be a fair number, and we believe that we will have a fair decision from the court when it comes. Till now, with our experience of last 5-6 years, we have received all fairness. Every decision court has ordered has been fair, and we have been quite quite pleasant with that. So let's hope that we get a fair number, and let's hope that it comes at any time.
Understood, sir. My question is that the court may have also asked you to share what valuation you are deriving in terms of expectations by your own CAs or valuation team. So is there a number for clarity purposes that you are expecting from them, irrespective of what the court may ultimately decide?
Yeah, see, just to give you more insight, there were two valuers appointed, okay? And both the valuers were appointed from each side. So Kiri appointed a valuer, which was independent valuer, and Longshan also appointed independent valuer from their side. And both the independent valuers' duty was to report to the court, right? So their responsibility was to the court and not to the company. Okay, so that means that whatever valuation submitted to the court by both the valuers is a part of the court's internal confidential information that is not to be disclosed by either party. So when you ask me what Kiri's appointed valuer has indicated, what number, of course we are aware of that number, but those numbers are within the confidential part of court's documents, and which are not accessible by anyone in the public domain, but only for the court's fair trial and decision, right? So for that purpose, we are not supposed to disclose that number what was submitted by the independent valuer appointed submitted to the court.
Right.
Legally,
right. Thank you very much.
Legally, we are not supposed to disclose that number. And
right.
I'm sorry if...
I can understand.
Yeah,
no,
because it's a part of our confidentiality to maintain till the judgment comes out from the court.
No, thanks very much. I understand that, and I agree with you, and just that I've been a very long-term investor, so there's a lot of confusion, and clarity was something that everybody was seeking instead of speculating.
Right.
So I can understand where you are coming from, and I agree with you that if something is in the court domain, it is something that you can't disclose.
Yes, and we hope that the judgment comes even tomorrow. We'll be very pleased
right.
if our counsels would get a call tomorrow. And to be fair, it is up to the court. I mean, the judgment is reserved; it can come and be delivered at any time. So the earlier is better for all the investors and shareholders to know the number and to know what amount company is going to receive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jain. Next question comes from the line of Naushad from Systematics. Line is unmuted.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity. Good evening, sir. Two, three questions, sir. First of all, quickly, if you can share the prices of vinyl sulfone and H-acid in this quarter versus same quarter last year.
Yeah, see, the price of vinyl sulfone right now is hovering around 150-155 rupees, and which was at a similar level last quarter. And this price is probably the lowest price in last 10 years, as I remember, or even more than that. So we are almost at the bottom of the price. The price of H-acid, which is currently around 345 to 350 rupees. The last quarter was also around 335, 340 rupees. So I would say even H-acid price is at a similar level in this quarter compared to last quarter. Of course, these prices are much lower compared to the average prices which we realized last year. So these are some of the lowest prices, Naushadji, which are prevailing in the market now. And not only from India, but the prices are also at the lowest level coming from China. So for example, that phone price from China is also around $2.1, and H-acid price is lowest to the extent of $4.4, $4.3 sometimes coming from China. So Chinese are also under pressure, and they are also floating quite low prices to the markets outside China.
Okay. So is it purely because of the demand slowdown, or is it something to do with the raw material prices has also gone down, so there might not be much impact on the overall spread, but the realization is lower?
Well, the overall, both the effects are there. Raw material prices are also down, and some of the raw material prices are also historically low. That is one area. And the second is the prices are proportionately lower side with a higher percentage, which is beyond the raw material related reduction, is also driven by low demand. For example, the prices which we see at 150, 155 level, if only consider the raw material reduction, it should have been at 175, 180 rupees. Right? So we have another impact of 15, 20 rupees both in H-acid as well as in vinyl sulfone, which is driven out of the lower demand.
Okay, and what is the trend now currently, and how do you see this? Because I believe these prices are not very difficult for us to survive at this level of realization. So how do you see that trend?
I mean, if you look at these prices, and because the raw material prices are down, dice prices also follow the same pattern, so the dice prices are down. I foresee that if the demand picks up in this quarter or before the end of this quarter, and knowing that the prices are some of the lowest in years and years, everyone expects, including us, that the prices would move on the positive side. The moment some demand comes up, the moment the sparking of requirements within India as well as outside India, prices would go positive from current levels. We don't see much room for the prices to go further down from here. Manufacturers and I believe that people would prefer to scale down their operation or stop their plants if the prices go further down.
Yeah. So at this level, how much margin you must be making at EBITDA level, sir?
At this level, you are almost near your break even. You would be hardly making 3 to 5% EBITDA at this kind of prices.
Okay, so it's still EBITDA positive, or the prices are at EBITDA positive level?
Yes, it is still at EBITDA positive level, correct.
Okay. And sir, we were, in a process of doing some capex to do some automation to reduce our employee costs, and
yes.
So just wanted your update on that, and if you can get into more details how these things are going to benefit to us, and quantitatively how much will this benefit in terms of overall employee costs and margin.
Yeah, say for example, we would be completing all our process automation, which we had already started more than a month back, by August end. So by the end of this month, we will be finishing that, and that would reduce now our headcount of labor requirement by close to 30%. Right, and it will not save too much of cost, but it would reduce our dependency on labor. On a quarterly basis, it would hardly help us to reduce by 50 lakhs on our salary wages, or even less than that, 40 to 50 lakhs. But on dependency, we would be less dependent, number one. Number two, our efficiency would improve. With this process automation and some of the areas of the plants, we would be more efficient compared to our earlier times, right? and with more efficiency, we hope that we will have better productivity. Our plant capacities, because all these changes are happening mainly in intermediate facilities and not in the dice facilities. So in intermediate facilities, we don't see much expansion on capacity, because capacity is going to remain the same. But our efficiency, our downtime, that will help us overall on month to have better output. So if we get even 2, 3, 4% better output every year utilizing existing capacity, actually it will help us to improve our margins a little bit.
Okay, sir. And lastly, can you quantify how much we spend in this quarter in terms of our legal and professional fees towards the court case?
Well, if you look at our net loss on a standalone basis, if we had not incurred this legal cost, it would have been half. I mean, that would give you the indication.
Okay. Got it, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question comes from the line of Ashish Agarwal from Navic Capital. Line is unmuted.
Yeah. Hi, Manishji. Good afternoon. Most of my questions have already been responded to, just a couple of them. One is, I noticed an exchange filing last month about shutdown of our production facility. What is the current status, and if it's operational, at what capacity utilization are we operating at?
Well, we are still operating at less than 50%, right now. And you must have seen the recent announcement where we shut down due to certain environmental strengthening measures. I think you might have looked at that announcement. Okay. So that is also getting over now. And from this week, we will restart our plant probably. We'll give you the confirmation on the stock exchange once done. But we are hopeful. And throughout this quarter, we expect to be on an average basis more than 50% utilization, right? So we hope that we are at least break even or little more in this quarter in the current situation.
Understood. Thank you.
Right, but this is an optimistic view, Ashish ji, and we will try our best to achieve that, and let's see how we are able to match up.
Sure. Appreciate that. Also, a clarificatory question. All the legal expenses that have been incurred, even the ones after July 18, for the court order will be reimbursed by Longshan. Is that understanding right?
Yeah. They are all being paid. Have to be paid by Longshan, and all cost expenses till July 3rd, 2018, are already been quantified, and they are in the process to submit claims. So it can happen anytime, as we speak. But even post July 3rd, 2018, expenses will also have to be paid by them. Correct.
I see. So the reimbursement of these legal costs is maybe a different timeline from the overall settlement.
Well, this will be a separate process where court has already ordered SICC, Supreme Court has already upheld the judgment, right? So after submission of our total records with all the backup documents and everything, court is going to then decide on that. And an SICC judge would be there, and we were told by the council that it is fairly quick because it's only the number which is going to be approved, agreed on certain set criteria by them. And it can go really fast because then there is no separate basically process is to be made. But it just follow the guidelines of what gets qualified and what doesn't get qualified out of our all claims that we make.
Understood. Okay, thank you. All the best.
But it may take few months, Ashish ji.
Sure.
For court to process.
All right. Got that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Agarwal, for your questions. Participants, if you wish to ask a question, please press 7-1 and then star on your telephone keypad. Next question comes from the line of Vishal Jaju from Cytone Mindset. Line is unmuted.
Hello. Hello. Am I audible? Yeah. Greetings, sir. So first of all, my first question was more regarding, the last few years, the profit which has been entitled from Dystar. So from the last year, from 2018, will the profit bill be inculcated in our balance sheet? And the second question was more sort of on the future outlook, which we discussed in the last quarterly con call. So you were more sort of, inclined towards starting the manufacturing of aniline, and just want to know how your updates are going on the next capital expansion part, and where are you planning to expand in the future?
Okay. So regarding your first point, see, today all the capex plans, especially for this year, they are being put on hold. Okay. So we are not going to incur any further capex. In whatever we had to complete is related to a specialty intermediate plant, which I referred to in our last conference call. We are going to finish that part, which is not going to incur us major investment. It would be very small.
Okay.
But besides that, all other capex plants are on hold till March 2021.
Okay.
And post that, we will see what to do as far as company's capex is concerned. Regarding Dystar's profit post July 3rd, 2018, Kiri is not entitled to receive, even though Kiri is consolidating in balance sheet as long as Kiri remains shareholder of Dystar. So statutorily we are bound and we are obligated to consolidate. So we are consolidating. But Kiri is not beneficiary to that profit. Only Kiri is going to receive is the sales proceeds under court order for its stake sale to Longshan under court order as on the valuation dated July 3rd, 2018. Besides that, post that date, Kiri will not receive any part of profit. And if court orders which Kiri has already requested would be the interest. Whether that interest would be awarded by the court as per Kiri's request from the date of the filing of the petition, which is June 2015, or from the judgment date, whatever court decides. And if court awards interest to Kiri, then from that specific date which court decides, Kiri will receive interest on the entire valuation amount. Till the transaction gets completed and till the date Longshan pays to Kiri. So the maximum we can get qualified for through the court order would be the interest.
Okay. So interest has been still under consideration, interest part, right?
Yeah. And if court considers it and awards it, it would be part of the court order which we will receive.
Okay. And can we get, some more light, like in the last quarter you said the company was planning on to expand some other sector as well, because dye stuff sector has been in a hampered manner in the last coming quarters due to COVID. So has company come to any conclusion that where we are planning to expand in the coming quarter or coming year or so, like after March 2021, when we are likely to get some receivables from the Dystar case? So has the company any plan where to expand sort of, or we would continue with the dye stuff sector?
No, I think as I mentioned last time, whatever proceeds that the company receive out of Singapore, right, would not be invested into dyes and intermediates. They would be invested in areas which are different from dyes and intermediates and within the chemical space. That's an overall decision already reached by the court. And whatever Kiri earns from its existing business, as and when required, Kiri will continue to invest in dyes business from its own earnings of dyes business, right? From the Singapore proceeds. That demarcation is very clear by the board of the company, right? Now, in chemical sectors, in which areas, which products, and where it would invest is not crystallized yet. It would depend on the amount, how much Kiri is to receive, right? It would also depend on which project is the best feasible achievable and which projects will earn the maximum return to the company. So there are a vast number of projects being analyzed. A lot of feasibility studies have been prepared since last 2 years, and then we'll make a prudent decision once we have clarity on what kind of amount we are getting.
Yes. True. Okay. And one another thing, can you please share in the coming quarters, as we are hampered with the working capital management. So in the coming quarters, will we be requiring working capital borrowings from the bank, or our cash flow will be sustainable enough to cover the working capital for the next quarter as well?
So as per the current working, we will continue to survive based on our own cash management. We have not borrowed from anyone, and there is no working capital lines that the company uses from any banks, right? So there is no interest-bearing debt on the books of the company, and as per the current plans, we'll manage from our own working capital and try to manage with the existing resources that we have in the company.
Okay. That's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Next question comes from the line of Karan Ramesh from Ashtika Group. Line is unmuted.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, am I audible? Yeah. Hi, Manishji. I had a question regarding the legal expenses that you had spoken about before. So there is, of course, the main valuation that is going on about Kiri's minority operation. So for that, we will receive Dystar will pay for the legal costs. But what about the other minor cases? If you could elaborate, whether we will have to pay for the legal costs, so that also will be paid by Senda or Dystar?
Well, for example, for the side case you are referring to, and the legal costs pertaining to side cases.
Yeah.
So the simple rule is that whoever loses the case will have to pay the other party, and the same rule applies here too. To give you an example, when Kiri was when the order was made in favor of Dystar, awarding Dystar $675,000, right? Court also awarded Kiri to pay around $200,000 plus legal fees to Dystar. Okay, so court will decide on these side issues. Whoever is a losing party would need to pay how much to the winning party. But all this would be maybe in the range of thousands in dollars, and probably not in millions in dollars.
Okay, so it's not even the legal cost that you have paid for the side cases. It's just a small proportion of your total legal expenses.
Yes, and those would be paid by the losing party.
Got it.
So for example, if Kiri has launched a counterclaim on Dystar, and if Kiri wins counterclaim, for that portion Dystar will have to pay to Kiri for Kiri's legal cost.
Okay, got it.
And same applies vice versa.
Got it. That's all from my side, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Dhiral Shah from Phillip Capital. Line is unmuted. You may ask your question.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir, and thanks for the opportunity. Sir, there is a significant difference in EBITDA margin in standalone as well as consolidated result. So what product enjoys high EBITDA margin in JV, and what are those margins?
Well, JV has 3 product ranges. So if you talk about JV, and Kiri also has certain products, standalone business also, which has high-end products and which fetches more margins. While in JV also, for example, there are product ranges which are based on fluorine chemistry, makes high and better margin. Indigo is also there in JV, which makes comparatively better margin. In Kiri, in standalone business, certain intermediates, and those are the intermediates which are high value intermediates. For example, ranging from 700 rupees a kilo to 1500 rupees a kilo fetches better margins. Quantities are small and lower quantities for those. So these are the products of different categories in both JV as standalone and also in standalone, which generates comparatively better margin than the other generic products, either dyes or intermediates. Applies for both.
Okay. And sir, in our multi-purpose plant, what are the list of 26 products? Can I get the list of that product?
There are certain derivatives in those, such as pyrimidine derivatives. Some of those derivatives are again aniline derivatives, crescendin derivatives. But I mean, specific products we may not be able to give. But those ranges are the ranges which I am mentioning, and many of those products are Chinese replacements, by the way.
And sir, so is there a potential demand after this COVID situation normalize? And what are the expected margins from this product?
Yeah, we can give some guidelines on expected margins of the products once this let us say non-COVID situation where normalized operations are, in which our new specialty intermediate plant would generate at least 20% EBITDA margin. So that kind of product mix has been there, and it will be replacement of Chinese imports. So these two key parameters are there, which will help us to overall boost our bottom line.
So do you feel there will be a sufficient demand, after this COVID situation normalize?
I think 2021 onwards, we would have sufficient demand. We believe so.
Okay. And the last thing,
but again, uncertainties I know as well as you know, right? Now,
yes.
Now, if the vaccine and the sentiments comes faster, improves better, then recovery would be faster. Right, if the sector is not, because see, lot of at least 60 to 70% of performance of dyes and intermediates is linked with textile. So heavy dependency on textile. So if textile improves, that again helps. So all are interlinked and interconnected on how recovery comes. So we may try to be optimistic, but only time will tell how things will recover.
Okay. And so lastly, so whatever amount we realize from Dystar, are we going to pay any, one-time dividend or anything for minority shareholders?
Yeah, that is also under discussion, of course. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir. That's it from my side. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shah, for your question. Next we have Kalpesh Verma. He's an individual investor and is unmuted.
Good evening, sir. I have one question regarding the Kiri share in the Dystar profit, which is total of 870 crores for the last 7 years, FY14 to FY20. So are we not going to receive this, or this is the amount apart from the valuation figure we are going to receive?
So see, whatever Kiri's portion of the profit of Dystar was never been paid to Kiri till date. Nothing, right?
Yes.
So whatever profit earned has already retained in Dystar. So Dystar's valuation will take that into effect. So what we will get is the valuation and the price, which will incorporate all the factors of Dystar's financials. And one of those factors also include the retained profit, which has not been dividended out to their shareholders, right? So which would be part of it. So as a business valuation, whatever value that has been decided by the court, we will get that value and that price for selling share under court order. We would not get a profit separately and the valuation number separately. It would be all one number, which is a valuation number.
Okay, sir. Sir, another thing is that you said that till 3rd July 2018, the legal cost has been quantified. Can you disclose the amount?
That has been worked out by the company, which would be submitted to the court. It would be claimed in the court, and once the claim is launched, definitely we will inform you.
Okay, sir. So another question is that once the valuation amount is being disclosed, So the interest component that is we are going to receive is from 2018 3rd July or from the original case that is from 2015?
Kiri's demand was from June 2015. That is what Kiri presented to the court. Right. And
okay.
The interest rate in Singapore is a fixed interest rate which is 5.33.
5.33, yeah.
Right. So we have demanded, not necessarily the court would consider. Right. So finally it is up to the court to decide whether from the judgment date or whether from the date of the rate. So that would be known when the judgment comes out.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you. That's all from my end.
Thank you. Next question comes from the line of Vivek Sahani. He is an individual investor. Your line is unmuted. You may ask your question.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Manishji. Am I audible?
Yeah, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. Sure. Manishji, I have a question relating to this valuation amount only, and in continuation to the earlier question and answer given by you. So you said that once the SICC gives the judgment, then Dystar or we will get the money, irrespective of the fact that they still have appeal right against the valuation amount. So legally speaking, in the context of judicial system, what happens is if you have a right of appeal, then generally you get the stay for making those payments, because otherwise it will frustrate the entire purpose of having the appeal right. So what are your thoughts in terms of, because you said that that would be contempt of court if they don't immediately pay the amount, even if they have the appeal right.
Yeah, I understand your point. Now, when the SICC order is out, post which the appeal is made in the Supreme Court, correct? Yeah. And appeal doesn't mean the automatic stay on the SICC order. Okay? So there is a separate stay to be taken, and according to our counsel's advice, they would not and they might not get that stay, being the third appeal in the case. So there are indications from our counsel that our right of enforcement of order would continue even though they would appeal. And the same thing had happened in the last judgment also. So for example, when the July 3rd, 2018 judgment came, right, they appealed in the Supreme Court and the stay was not granted to stop the valuation proceedings. So even though Supreme Court appeal was made after July 3rd, 2018, valuation process continued in SICC.
Yeah, but Manishji, I think continuing the valuation proceeding is a different ball game than making the payment, because the entire testimony. And if, for example, if I have an appeal right and I make the payment to you, and and the appeal is admitted before the Supreme Court, then my entire appeal right is frustrated, because I have paid the amount and I'm still fighting for that amount. So do you think that still I am not able to get the logic that why would they get, if the appeal is admitted, then why would they not get the stay?
See, based on very valid question you asked, but based on our discussion with the council, the logic which comes is that the order is made by the SICC, the order exists and the order is enforceable to pay to Kiri, unless that order reverts by appeal. So if order is not reversed by appeal, which means that their liability is continue to stay. So unless and until they are successful in reversing the order from the Supreme Court, doesn't imply them not to pay their obligation. That is where it is coming from. So I understand you have a very valid point, but the way we have been explained by the council, that our right of recovery and the enforcement of the order doesn't go away with filing the appeal.
Sure.
Right, unless appeal court gives a separate stay, that yes, now I am giving a separate stay on SICC, and there is, so one is a appeal application, and then there has to be a stay application, which is a separate application. Unless and until that stay application is granted by Supreme Court, enforcement rights continue to exist.
Surely, but I think once if they file the appeal, they would surely file the stay application also. And if Supreme Court admits the appeal, then Supreme Court will definitely give the stay to them. Otherwise, I don't think so. Admitting appeal will serve any purpose there. So I think we are yet to see how it goes.
So let us say in a stay application, if Supreme Court says that, well, we can allow a stay, right? But Kiri is saying that you pay security first, pay 50% amount, put in the escrow account.
Yeah.
Give some commitment to the court, isn't it?
Sure, that can happen anyways, because they may Supreme Court may order that they pay some deposit amount. Or
so stay. If the stay granted, court has a right to demand something against it, isn't it? And Kiri has a right to present also. Why not to grant stay in that case?
Absolutely. No, it's a valid point. I think court can say that you deposit the amount in escrow account, some partial amount, so that your seriousness about the appeal is displayed. You are not just stretching.
Yeah, so you should not be, appeal only just to basically misuse the process.
Absolutely.
And just pass time. That should not be there, isn't it?
Yeah. So makes sense. All right, sir. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
All the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sahani. Due to time constraint, that was the last question for the day.